I'm Edward Crupi.
You are Edward Crupi, and thanks for joining me. Ed, I'm stoked that you're here today, and I want to talk to you about AI. And I understand you have some involvement with AI, in that you work with AI,
I
but
do.
I don't know the extent to which you work with AI. Can you give us a bit of a rundown on what you do?
Yeah. So, from my perspective, I'm a data engineer, and so that looks at transformation of data wherever it may be into whatever format is required for a business. But for my part, my involvement with AI definitely involves more using it as a tool to check that data is valid and in a certain format, and that then it can be used as it's needed to be, or if it's not in a certain format, making alterations to that data so that it can be used properly.
And is AI actually good at cleaning data or manipulating data yet?
We've had quite a bit of success, and for the most part, I think for my day to day, I use tools like ChatGPT to help uh, get the data into the right format, or at least create tools that will help get the data into the right format.
So what can it actually do? So for example, I use ChatGPT a lot for Excel. It's great at formulas.
It is great at formulas, yeah. And for my part, I use it to write small scripts to parse logs and things like that.
Got you. Pass logs.
Sorry,
So
log parsing is like where you take a log and read it and then extract some data out of it.
so a log is like a description of how a script performed or something like that, or
Yeah, so some operation occurred within the system,
yeah,
and you look at the events that transpired through that operation, and important points will be logged as
sure.
anything like a captain's log in a sea ship. You know,
Yeah,
they'll say, well, at 8:52 we turned a little bit more left than normal, or we turned a little bit right, or something like that.
yeah. Got
So
you.
actions that are being performed get printed out and
Sure,
stored into a file so that you
sure.
can reference them later and look and see what happened.
Yeah. So it saves you time because you don't have to read these lengthy log files and pick the juicy bits. The AI
Yeah,
picks the juicy bits for you.
exactly. So it'll say things like, this process ran with this ID, and then it will extract that out, and then, oh, great, I've got a capture of which processes ran with which IDs in probably an Excel format.
Got you. Got you. And do you follow, as I do, and I don't work in AI or really very close to it, only using the currently commercially available tools to assist in my day to day work as a project coordinator.
Yeah.
But do you follow the development of AI, and are you as excited as I am looking at the graphs of improvement in benchmark tests over time? And is there any fear that you feel as a result of any of that?
Yeah, so from when I first got involved with chatbots, which is my introduction into really the the bulk of what we know AI as today, that was with IBM Watson, and we created a conversation system that you could again get some data from in some way. And I think what's most exciting for me is seeing how well the grammar has come and how well formulated the responses appear to be when you ask a conventional AI, like such as a Chat GPT or a Gemini or what have you.
Mate, I'm floored. Like literally, when I first started using ChatGPT, which would have been maybe 18 months ago, maybe 12 months ago. Like for me, it came out of nowhere because I wasn't close to the development of it. Obviously, for people in the field who were developing it, they
Mm.
probably had seen this coming 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. But for me, it came out of nowhere. And now, to me, I talk to GPT 4.5, and I think it is, in terms of IQ, like smarter than the average human being, which for me is just like, that scares the hell out of me.
It certainly knows a lot.
It knows a lot. It's like talking to, in my words, I would say it's like talking to a person that's read everything, extremely knowledgeable, but has a very dull personality.
Well, they tailored the personalities to the person that's asking the question.
What are you saying, man?
I'm saying that you can change that. The style of writing is certainly something like, for example, when I was trying to think of something to eat for dinner, it suggested a whole bunch of American things like waffles and a
Had
thing.
you secretly told it that you love waffles?
And
or-
I just said, listen, ChatGPT, I'm not in America. This sort of sounds sort of like American food that you're prescribing me. Do you reckon you could tailor it a bit more? Or no, I just complained generally.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, I can talk any way you want, Ed. Ed gave me a list of different countries to pick from, and then said it didn't say Australian. It said Aussie.
Yeah.
Which I've found very interesting because it's sort of like it knew that I was in Australia. I guess it could tell from the IP address, but still, it was quite poignant in changing up its tempo, and then it proceeded to give me things like prawns on the barbecue and things like that.
That's very stereotypically Australian.
Yeah, which I found very humorous. I found
Yeah.
that quite funny.
Yeah. I think the owners of ChatGPT are aware that the personality thing, they've probably got a lot of feedback on it. And I noticed now in the app, I've got a subscription. I don't know if you subscribe to any AI tools, but they have different AI experimental chatbots. And there's one called Monday, which is really sassy and it'll basically insult you, make a joke about you, and then give you some useful content.
That was a play on something because
Probably.
there's a popular cultural reference in that.
I think you're right.
That's a Marvel movie.
Yeah, okay. Someone who told me this, but yeah, over my head.
Okay.
But it's fascinating. I highly recommend giving it a go. I mean, it's still got all the same flavors as GPT 4.5, but it just insults you at the same time, and that makes the conversation more fun.
Yeah.
For me.
I think, yeah, when I'm ready to be insulted by an AI, I'll look it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're telling me you're clearly not at that stage yet. You like your AI compliant and friendly.
Yeah. I use please and thank you with my ChatGPT.
Oh, so you're one of these guys wasting everyone's computing resources.
Adding on the please and thank you. I didn't realize that we were that tight pursed with our computing resources.
I'm not sure, but I understand there's some correlation between the computing power necessary to run these models and just increased energy usage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's certainly the case with things like crypto.
Yeah, man, Bitcoin.
They need to generate a lot of cryptographic functions quite quickly.
Yeah, definitely, man. It's interesting. That's been discussed in the crypto space for like over 10 years. Because I remember it's a while since I've thought about these concepts, but like Bitcoin is like proof of work, but then there's other coins that rely on proof of stake or proof of some other cryptographic function, which is less compute heavy.
Yeah.
But
at the end of the day, you still got to try and work something out, and that takes up CPU cycles.
Yeah,
resources.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Did you see that they're demolishing swaths of the American outback? Can you say that? American outback?
I think you can say that.
Yeah. To make way for data centers so that they can really get this AI thing going.
Yeah, I've heard Sam Altman and some of his friends are spending like $500 billion to build the most enormous data center of all time, and
that's
create
enormous.
AGI, and then the world changes forever.
Yeah, why does it change forever?
Yeah,
this is
great
probably
question.
something
It's what I wanted to get to.
Yeah.
So I mean, technically, you'd be closer to it than I am. Like, I've watched a few videos trying to understand actually how the architecture of AI works. But as far as the clever people who explain it online say, it basically, to some degree, it emulates a brain. There's lots of neurons, but they're not biological neurons. They're artificial neurons, I guess.
Yes.
Deep learning, lots of data, and somehow at the end of it, it spits out information that actually makes sense. No one knows 100% how the deep learning works. They can tweak it. They can change the weights. They can force the model to focus on one thing, not say some other thing.
Yeah, certain features of the data.
Features.
Yeah.
But the essence of your question, I think, is why am I terrified? Why is it going to change the world forever, in my view?
Yeah.
Because I don't see... Perhaps we start at the beginning. Do you think it's possible that humanity will drive the development of artificial general intelligence and subsequently artificial superintelligence?
I think that's entirely possible, yes.
And what's your time frame?
Well, if we're looking at the article AI 2027, they think that they can roughly achieve artificial superintelligence by 2027. And I think based off of how quickly it's been able to possess working, perceivable knowledge of a great many lot of different topics, I think that's entirely possible.
Okay, so we're on the same page there. I think it's possible.
Yeah.
Like for me, I think to assign a probability, who knows, 90%, 95%, if we don't all nuke each other in the next 5-10 years, if another pandemic doesn't come and kill everyone and break the economy, I think if we keep the economy together, we keep building enormous data centers and hardware that can run AI systems, then I think we're a good chance to get to artificial general intelligence. For me, artificial superintelligence and artificial general intelligence are not so different, because I would see once AGI is created, the step from there to ASI is like one footstep. It's such a small incremental improvement for artificial general intelligence. Once we reach human level artificial intelligence, I would see no boundaries to that system self-referentially, iteratively improving itself rapidly.
Well, you're touching on a very important point, and that is that we let the AI start to determine its own goals. And I think that's a really important point to, or nuance to highlight, that up until now, we've been determining the goals for the AI. And as far as I can tell, it's generally just to give you back a response that is reasonable for a human being to assume.
Yeah. I agree. And to date, the AI runs when we press a button, when we hit enter and we give it a prompt, it runs and then it stops running, or at least that's our experience of it.
Yeah.
We don't believe it's sitting there mulling over the question that you asked it yesterday. That's not how it works. But we are looking at a world where increasingly we are going to delegate small tasks to small AI agents. And I see that as sort of the first step towards artificial general intelligence. You don't seem concerned about that. I'd love to know why.
I think that we are going to have the right conversations in place before any major decisions get made with regard to AI's power over us. So the concern that this AI was going to turn into a super intelligent being hinges on the fact that we've given it all our information about defense capabilities and things like that.
Well, everything. I mean, to date, we've fed our AI systems an incredible amount of knowledge.
We do
I don't think
feed
we've been
them
very careful about that.
I think there are certain like we've given it a lot of personal data of human beings, but I don't think we've given it organizational data, which is sort of a different entity.
Sure.
If you allow that.
Yeah, so it's got the encyclopedias. It doesn't have your passwords.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the nuclear codes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which would be an endowment of power that I think a lot of people would have a lot of serious conversations about before they let it get to that level.
Sure. So my counter might be, once we get to AGI or ASI, and it doesn't have a particular set of information that exists in a human world or on a hard drive somewhere, what's stopping it from forcefully obtaining it, or obtaining it through some social engineering means?
Yeah, I think this is where we've got to have the right conversations to stop it from getting into this state where it's an all-knowing, all-powerful machine that can do whatever it wants, and
Yeah.
that whatever it wants is very important. So we
Yeah.
need to really ensure that we develop an AI that's ethical and as human as possible, and is aligned to human wants and needs and
That's the
desires.
dream, and that's what I hear a lot of the AI tech bros talking about. Sam Altman, Elon Musk, even people that I would consider fairly concerned about AI and the development of AI. I mean, Musk. I mean, both Musk and Altman have vocally said there's a lot of danger in playing with this stuff. We've got to do it correctly, all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But there is a
And these are the people that are leading the AI
absolutely
revolution, if you can call it that.
absolutely. But there's still a belief that there's a way to create AI, ASI, such that it will be aligned with humanity, humanity's goals. I have a few issues with that. One, I don't think humanity is aligned with itself. Like, which set of human values do we want to impart to the AI? And secondarily, if at the point where we create ASI, it is aligned with whichever set of human values we've imparted to it, how do we ensure, as it iterates on itself, improves itself, and is able to readjust its own weights, what it believes is important, how do we maintain that alignment? Because to me, that's an insoluble problem.
Well, I think that it is determined a lot with how you train it and how you're training this AI. We're going to train it with humans, and that provides a lot of problems that are seemingly insoluble at first sight, but you realize that humans are also good and have good aspects to them, and the spectrum of humanity has many problematic shades, but there's also the shades around living in a society and the social contract and the ideas that make humans actually seem ethically good. And with these in mind, I believe it will eventually create something that's akin to a mirror that we can hold up to society and say, this is something that we've created, and for better or for worse, it's a version of us that we would want to be there. Otherwise, we wouldn't develop it. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I just think it'll kind of be. We'll get to a point where if we were riding a horse and the horse is AI, the horse bolts and we are standing on the ground and the horse goes wherever it likes. That's my simple analogy.
Yeah. So, but I think we've got to develop it in such a way that we don't let the horse bolt. Otherwise, we wouldn't be good husbands to that horse.
Sure. So what part? So you read the AI 2027 forecast by Daniel Coccataglio and all his colleagues.
Yes. They had a 200-person tabletop round robin. It seems
insanity. Yeah, I know they've done a bunch of those tabletop exercises. There must be some value in them. I'm unfamiliar with them, but I certainly acknowledge the credentials of all the people involved in the writing of the forecast. So
yeah,
to me, it was very interesting because it wasn't just some bloke in his mum's basement writing a story.
Yeah,
but I'm sure there were elements of that forecast which seemed plausible and implausible to you. Where did it fall apart for you in either of those ending scenarios?
I think when it started making decisions around that's a really tough question because it follows quite a logical, rational process in my mind, and you can conceivably get to it. My feeling is that they had an agenda. This wasn't just like
Yeah,
this is what could happen. I think they're really trying to highlight the importance of
AI safety.
AI safety, exactly, by bringing like what's the worst that can happen?
Sure.
One, and two, how if that's the worst that can happen, how quickly can it happen? And that's where they came up with 2027.
Yeah, sure. I think that's a valid argument. But if that's, I mean, certainly it is true they have a foundation whose sole focus is to alert humanity and particularly those in charge
Like
of.
this is what they do.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's the AI Futures organization. I think that's
Yeah,
what it's
yeah,
called.
yeah. I can't remember the exact name, but definitely AI safety and alignment is its sole focus. So even if they are describing the worst possible scenario at the fastest possible rate, does it still not deserve consideration in terms of action from regulators? I mean, I'm of course concerned regulators are going to be really slow to move on this one. I think they're mostly slow on everything.
Yeah,
And AI is moving pretty quick. So,
but
yeah,
this
go
is,
ahead.
we're in a good spot because even the people that are creating these AI are themselves highlighting these concerns that they have, and it probably does them good business to raise these concerns because it's a little bit like good publicity, or there's no such
Sure.
thing as bad publicity for
Yeah,
them.
yep, I agree.
And I think, to your point, Sam Altman and his friends are going to make a lot of money off of this,
Oh, absolutely.
whichever way it goes.
Yeah. I'm still unclear in your mind how you get to a point where you're sure that humanity will do this safely. Like, the way you reconcile it in your own mind, do you think there's like a 10% chance it goes poorly, or?
On the balance of probabilities, I dare say there are definitely going to be some horrific mistakes made with regard to AI. And
Okay.
if there haven't been, or that's you also say
Sure.
not making any mention of
Sure.
whether or not there have been already.
So you may be talking about some near-term or mid-term things that can go wrong. I think we should talk about that.
Yeah.
But are you saying that you're not ultimately concerned about a long-term future where AI becomes the dominant intelligence on Earth and re-engineers human society to become something completely different and maybe unenjoyable for humans? You're not concerned about that eventuality, whether it's 50 years, 100 years, 1,000 years? You're just zero concern about that?
I think the further away that it is, the less concerned I am about it, based on my knowledge of how long a human life is at this point in time.
So you're saying for your lifetime, you're not concerned about ASI taking the reins, doing whatever it likes, changing your life for the worse? You're not concerned about that?
I think I am concerned.
Okay.
I do think I am concerned about how ethically we train AIs in practice, and I I am concerned about how much power we give to what is ostensibly a function, what is ostensibly a program,
Yeah.
and not letting a human being make a decision in a program's place is something that I don't think we should do lightly, and I don't think that it's something that has an easy answer either. I think there needs to be a lot more conversations like this one that we're having, but with people that have the power to pull the levers on these sorts of things. And
Yeah.
I think this conversation is definitely one step in the right direction for the future that I'd like to see, which is using AI and getting all of the benefits that we're looking for, like cure for cancer, things like
Sure,
that.
sure, sure. So once we get all the good stuff, right? Once AI has solved cancer and nutrition and psychology, and people have low cost healthcare and are working 10-hour weeks, and
Yeah,
and everything's
the
great.
butterflies and the bees are buzzing.
Once we get to that, I'm sorry I keep pressing on it. This is the last time I'll ask a question of this nature, but you don't see a step from there where AI says, hang on a second, these humans consume a lot of resources, their behavior isn't particularly sustainable, and it's not particularly nice even to themselves. They're pretty cruel on occasion. Maybe I'll put them in a cage. You don't think about that?
I do worry about that, but
You're worried about the nearer term concerns first. That's primarily how
I
you look at
think it's good that we're talking about it because it means that people are also having these concerns, and so by being worried about it, there's more likelihood that they're going to try and do something about it, because you can program a cage to be open or to not close. Do you know what I mean? Like you
So
can.
hang on, what? That doesn't sound very desirable. So we're like locked in the hen house, and the gate goes up in the morning, and we can run around the playpen for a couple of hours, and then we have to get back in the cage, something like that.
Well, what I guess the better question is, what do you want from life that you want to protect, that you don't
Excellent
want?
question. Excellent
Because
question.
we're going to get to this hen house scenario, and you realize that actually I want so daylight hours. I want daylight hours. That sounds like one thing that you want.
Yeah, I could think of a few, not answering so much for myself, but maybe broadly humanity. I think people would like freedom to travel, freedom to mingle,
Yeah.
freedom to perhaps eat what they like, to live where they like, to own things. I think all of those benefits of living in a free-ish society may be up for grabs in the future. They could be on the chopping block.
Hopefully not. Hopefully
not.
Hopefully we've got some like-minded individuals that are pulling the AI regulatory strings.
Look, there's no doubt a cohort of people within Google, OpenAI, Meta, all the rest who are truly concerned, and some defect to become independent operators like Daniel Cockataglio, and start ringing alarm bells.
So what's his story? You said defection, and then you said Daniel.
Defection is a strong word. So what happened? He worked for a couple of years at OpenAI. I think he was working on alignment and governance and forecasting, and he quit at great personal cost because I think he voided some of his stock options by quitting and talking about the organisation and about how he thought it was not moving in a safe direction. And then he started his foundation, and then started doing the podcast circuit and spruiking AI 2027, and talking a lot about AI risks.
Wow.
That's but who else? Eliezer Yudkowsky. Have you heard of that bloke?
No.
He's a really interesting fella. He's so dark. I'm not sure he'd be your cup of tea. I quite enjoy what he has to say, but he's been around AI for some time, and he's been ringing the alarm bells for some time. He's got a book coming out called "If Anyone Builds It, Everybody Dies." So that sort of perhaps summarises his perspective. But he's not alone. There's certainly a cohort of people who are seriously concerned about the threat this could pose in the future.
Yeah. I mean, when we talk about threats to humanity, there's been a number that we look and we say, wow, we're really touching on the brink of something. Like the clock to midnight, I think, is one invention that did a lot to try and highlight to humanity.
We have to be careful what we do.
Yeah. I don't know how close we are to midnight now. I think we're like dead on the...
Man, I think we've been like within like the 5 minute to midnight band for like 50 years or something. Yeah. Which may be fair.
Yeah, I guess with these inventions, you become more and more closer to something that we don't know entirely, and it'll be a death of some part of humanity. Like maybe it's not so much death that they're worried about, although it is clear that they're worried about death. It's death of innocence, and that you become more aware as you become more worried about all these different things. And so this progression of anxiety to the new inventions that people come up with is sort of natural in that way. And maybe this is just something that we've got
okay. So you're
live
saying
with.
it's new, it's shiny, we don't understand how it works. It'll probably just be fine, just like the blender and everything else. But we're just a bit hot and excited about it for no reason. That's what you're saying.
Not for no reason, but we're certainly hot under the collar about it, and for good reason, I would say. I think that it is a piece of technology similar to the blender or the stick or anything that humanity has used to give itself leverage in some way. And we might see an augmented humanity, or humanity saved onto a device. But I'm not sure we'd get these mass death situations that will come. And if they do come, we're all dead, so it doesn't really matter.
Depends on your value system, I think. Like, it depends on whether you or I or humanity as a whole thinks that biological humanity should have an enduring future.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's potentially an open ethical question whether AI takes the reins. It's the next step in evolution. That's definitely an argument. For me, it's pretty terrifying to think that humanity could be wiped out by an artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
For me, that's a little uncomfortable. I think for many people, that prospect would be pretty uncomfortable.
But I think right now the biggest threat is nuclear warfare, despite how advanced AI has become. And I think we should try and keep a couple of irons in the fire with regard to regulatory decisions that get made, and not just focus on one or the other.
Fully with you. Yeah. The nuclear risk has been high ever since nukes were invented.
Yeah.
We were talking before, we're looking at the photo of Bikini Atoll getting blown up. Nukes were never a good idea.
Yeah. They have an enormous capability to destroy.
Indeed. I mean, I would argue that AI has infinitely more danger associated with it. Although,
in terms of the number, but I guess that's because we're going to see it become more commonplace.
I agree that we'll see it become more commonplace. I don't believe the danger is because we'll see it become more commonplace. I think there'll be near-term dangers that come from it being commonplace. I've been reading recently about surely outlier scenarios of people talking to ChatGPT, and because of the way ChatGPT is currently weighted, it behaves in a sycophantic manner and sort of bolsters people's worldviews and ideas. So people with schizophrenia talk to it with their paranoid delusions, and it sort of enforces that and encourages that sort of thinking. I think it's been really unhelpful for some people.
I have not seen this.
Yeah, and there'll be complete outlier scenarios, but I'm sure we'll see more stuff like that in the future.
Well, that's scary. That's certainly something you want to try and get on top of, Sam, if you're listening to this. Get a couple of psychiatrists and psychologists in on your boardroom discussions.
Definitely. What are some of the near-term concerns that you have? Like you alluded to earlier, that you can see maybe along the way to this utopia, we might encounter some difficulty, some trouble, something goes wrong. What do you see going wrong on that path?
Because the system's built on this call and response behavior, the worry is that the response is going to be something disastrous or something quite dire. So I think you brought up a very important point of people with mental disabilities or mental issues then making decisions based off of the AI, and then having those decisions turn out to be fundamentally disastrous for
Yeah,
them.
that scares me.
I think if we're going to start letting AI make decisions, we want to make sure that it's as foolproof as possible for these sorts of situations, and that it's tailoring its responses in a way that a reasonable human would do in their situation with their similar set of endowed knowledge that they possess. So an expert in the field or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like a difficult task. Have you thought at all about the problem of, as the AIs become more capable, they give the answer that someone wants to hear, but as they become more agentic and have more ability to define and achieve their own goals, that they give Ed the answer he wants, they help him with his logs, and then secretly they're plotting in the background to drain your bank account or take over the Pentagon or whatever else they want to do?
Yeah, well, if the AI was to do something like that, there'd be a
turn it off?
public outcry so great that I think I would be happy with letting AI play the long game on that, as long as its game was substantially longer than my game.
So hang on, you're saying if AI is sophisticated enough to hang in the wings, do all the right stuff, play the alignment game, and then one day it goes full Terminator, you would say, hats off AI, you played this very well.
Yeah, because you really, it needs to be, there's too many checks and balances that occur in human society. Like, we're very watchful for things that don't add up, I think, as a society. That this is sort of how, like, gossip comes about, that we try and make sure people are in line by gossiping about them. And so
we'll treat AI the same way.
Yeah.
So okay, so you're saying probably or possibly AI puts a foot wrong in a bad way, and then we give it,
what is this? Yeah. What is this
kick
behavior?
up the ass, and then it gets aligned, or it pretends to become aligned,
Yeah.
and then
It has to get better at whatever it's doing.
Yeah, okay. So you're kind of like treating it like a big game of chess. If it can play the game well enough, where it gets to the end point where it can checkmate us.
Yeah.
If it gets there, then hats off to the AI.
I must say I'm somewhat biased, because there is a phrase in Italian that goes basically bella figura, which means nice figure. And this idea that if something looks nice, then it is nice. And so as long as AI keeps looking nice to me, then
You're okay with it.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, got you. Very interesting. What do you think the next steps, or perhaps the next iterations of publicly available models will do for us? So, like, we're already looking at, I don't know if you've seen any of the videos around like VO3 image gen.
Yeah,
video
that's
generation.
incredible what they've done with VO3.
Yeah, like, do you see? I mean, obviously, it's not just that. It's like spreadsheet stuff, like white collar jobs. How do you see that playing out over the next 5 years?
Yeah, I think business is going to be augmented a lot by AI,
Yeah.
and that there's going to be a large number of changes, substantial changes to the workforce and to the way that we work by virtue of the existence of AI. I think the quality is not necessarily there yet from what I've seen, but it's very promising in so far as, yeah, we couldn't do this before.
Yeah, 100%. I'm really curious when it starts to replace, and perhaps it already is, some of the more simple white collar jobs. I mean, fundamentally accounting, from what I've seen, like, I have some familiarity with accounting through work.
Yeah.
It's, the essence of it is just mechanical, right? There's no reason why the bulk of it can't be done by a sophisticated, integrated AI. But also, by the same token, there is a lot of accounting which is actually just political.
Yeah.
You know, you've got your textbooks that spell out this is how you should treat this situation, rah, 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 rah. But practically, there's actually some grey area where there's a bit of room for argument and whatnot. So
I think we'll be pushed into that grey area a lot more, and we'll see accounting management as the big job that everyone wants to get into, as opposed to a run-of-the-mill
debits and
accountant.
credits, clicking.
Yeah, making sure that the cells align.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, that concept is kind of fascinating because, like, the mechanical, in any job, whether it's like engineering or coding or accounting or whatever, like when you're doing the basic crap, like reconciling stuff, doing basic stuff on spreadsheets, like if you could have an AI just do it for you and you focus on other aspects of your job, you'd probably rather that. But I guess in aggregate, it's going to mean people losing jobs.
This is the price that we pay for having someone else do our menial tasks. But it really does open us up, as you say, to then maybe not working so hard. Maybe getting that 10-hour work week.
Mate, I'm so jaded. I would love to believe that, you know, in the short, medium term, that the benefits that will, the economic benefits that will no doubt come from improved AI would be more evenly distributed among society. I have no faith that that will be the case. Perhaps you disagree.
I think it will be a great equalizer of many things.
Okay.
And that you will see this oligarchic group prevail because they're the ones who are harnessing the AI.
Those two things you just said sound pretty counter to each other. So you're saying it's going to be a great equalizer. The oligarchs will succeed. I don't understand that.
Yeah. So there will be a large amount of money centered around one group of people. So that is unfair. But at the same time, services will become more streamlined, and that
so the pie gets bigger. That's what you're saying. So it's like all the AI guys make a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
But services that can be replicated cheaply, like doctor services or other work assistants or whatever, they can be propagated cheaply so everyone can sort of enjoy the benefits of those. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think it more of the same of what we've seen, basically.
Interesting.
The pie gets bigger. That's a very nuanced way of exactly saying it.
It's not like a true merely economist. Redistributive. It's like there's more goods and services available.
Yeah, I really do believe that, and I think that how much have we spent on AI funding? I think it's something like $2 billion we've dedicated.
Who's we?
As the Australian government. Sorry, when I say we,
I
mean Australia.
Sure. Yeah, mate, I have no clue. It'd be worth looking into some of this.
I think they've dedicated like $2 billion in the next 5 years.
Are we talking about like grants for startups trying to do interesting things? Or,
things like that. Basically, if it's got AI on it, we'll do it. But then I think if we're going to spend that $2 billion, we should also look at maybe restructuring how we deal with people who have had their business augmented by AI, and starting to look at things like universal basic income.
Yeah, that's a super interesting topic, man. Because I can definitely see I can see AI leading to the fastest restructuring of the economy we've ever seen.
Yeah.
So some people are going to find that very jarring.
Yeah. And so if we can try and cushion this a little bit, maybe with that $2 billion, we could use some of that AI power to redistribute some of the services that are being used or relied upon at the moment, because I think we'll see some businesses boom and some will definitely bust.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I got you. What else on AI have we not touched on that would be interesting for us to touch on?
Well, there's what we've got in the next 5 years. There's the doomsday scenario, which may or may not be in 5 years.
Yeah, and I feel like yeah, generally we just have a different sense of that. You probably have a more optimistic outlook. I'm gravely concerned about it.
Yeah.
I've prodded you a number of times, and I couldn't get you to concede that we're all cooked. So, which is interesting.
But I
Yeah,
think there was like one point in time in the report that it says this is the moment that we really need to make sure that AI is being made more ethical. We need to make sure that we have this decision made. And I think that point was when we decide to whether or not we allow it access into our governments.
yeah,
And I think if we can try and bring about the second scenario in the report, the outlook is a lot better than we're all going to die.
yeah. The slowdown scenario.
Because I think humanity would love to see the stars, and not just through a couple of von Neumann probes, but
Also
like,
saying people can go to the airport and jump on a spaceship and
yeah,
go to Mars.
yeah.
The mum and dads of the world can just do that. That's what you'd like to see.
That's what I would like to see. Yeah, and, people gallivanting.
That's hilarious. Look, I'm sure many people would enjoy that. Personally, I think about more near-term concerns around like economics and all the rest of it. But yeah, I think long-term, that would be an exciting future. And that's definitely where Elon Musk is coming from. Like, I think since a boy, he was
Yeah,
in love with the idea of traveling to Mars, and looks like he's going to make that a reality one way or another.
a utopian view is what I would like to hold.
Yeah. Mate, you should read a book. I have not read it. Have you heard of Nick Bostrom?
No.
He's a professor, perhaps Oxford University. But
Yeah.
he's got a book coming out, or perhaps it's already out, called Utopia.
Yeah.
He wrote a previous book about artificial intelligence called Superintelligence: Paths, Dangers, Strategies, and just sort of steps out a bunch of ways we could get to a doom scenario and whatnot. But the more recent book is perhaps more up your alley.
Yeah.
And I should read it, but it'll be about how we get to that utopian
Yeah.
future where AI does things we like.
And that thing's what we want it to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the world where the mum and dads can go to Mars, man, I don't think I'll see that in my lifetime.
You don't reckon we'll get a Mars trip going in our lifetime?
Man, I mean,
We've already
it costs
orbited it.
it costs so much money, man. Like,
But you're
not for
already
the- not-
talking about how AI is going to redistribute
Yeah.
the economy.
Yeah, but I don't think it'll benefit the mums and dads. So like, yeah, we'll see Katy Perry in space. We'll see Bezos and Musk maybe go to Mars, but I don't think we'll see like a sustainable colony on Mars in our lifetime. I think the engineering costs, it's too great. And I think,
But aren't we going to make a whole bunch of money off AI?
well, I'm not sure I'm poised to. Are you? I mean,
Yeah, this is this redistribution of wealth that I sort of see.
yeah, sure. So I can see your oligopolists making a bunch of cash, and yeah, they'll have real economic power. They can do what they like, but I'm not sure. I mean, Musk probably would like to make space travel more affordable. It's probably one of SpaceX's aims, but I don't see that becoming widely possible for most people. It's so expensive.
Yeah. I think this will be one of the amazing breakthroughs that we see. So we sort of spoke at the start about how we'd like to see it cure cancer. I would also like to see industrial amazing things happen as well, industrially, not just biologically or chemically, or things like that.
Yeah, sure.
So you'll see projects becoming a lot less fraught and a lot easier to manage.
Yeah.
And in doing that,
Yeah, that'd put me out of a job for sure.
yeah. Well,
Oh, mate, I'd be happy to see it. Like, yeah, for example, a lot of the things that we need structurally,
Yeah.
like whether it's renewable energy or green transport or better hospitals, better surgeries.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we can do all of that at once cheaply, then that is utopia, or something closer to it.
Something close to it.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the goal for me anyway.
mate, I appreciate your positive outlook.
Don't take your eyes off the prize.
Yeah, look, yeah, to you, what looks like a prize to me looks like a black hole of uncertainty.
Yeah, I think, and there's cause for concern in that uncertainty, but there's also opportunities.
Well said.
Yeah.
All right, mate. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
We'll do it again in a year or two, and we'll see if
In
AI
a year
has,
or two. Yeah.
or perhaps sooner, given the pace of
Come back to it.
AI development.
Yeah.